Welcome to another episode of Jeep Torque. And today we're going to talk about two things that I added to my Jeep. And I'm still concentrating on the engine side. And just real quick, this is to piggyback off of my video from yesterday on the engine failure that I experienced and what ended up happening there. I did have some questions on that. The engine was replaced, and so far it has been good, no issues there. The engine did come from the plant up in Detroit, so I was told, and that's what's on my paperwork. So far everything's been good there, no issues, and it's been installed for about a year and a half now, and no problems to report as of right now. Today, I'm going to talk about two things. The first thing we're going to talk about is the oil catch can, which I brought up on that video as well. So basically, what the oil catch can is supposed to do is catch any sort of residue and filter out that oil that's running through your engine. That's the theory. That's how it works. And does it work? I'm not 100% sure. I can't really say that it does work. It does catch. I do see residue. It turns into a really thick, black, muddy substance, almost like as if you left coffee and it turns into kind of like that muddy looking, kind of thickness to it. That's what you end up catching in this little can. So I change it every time I change my oil filter. I take that can out and then I'll clean it out with brake fluid. And I do notice that it's thick with that mud. I haven't seen any metals in there or anything of that nature, but it's always like this thick, muddy substance. So is it working? Is it helping? Maybe, maybe that muddy stuff wouldn't end up anywhere near, my rods or anything like that, the push rods over in the piston area, any of that. Maybe it's helping there and not allowing that to build up and, do some more damage there in that area. So it'll be a long-term thing to see what will happen. Of course, now I have a new engine. We'll see what happens here. The issue with the oil catch can is it is supposed to prevent things. And of course, I had my engine failure. But I want to say that no oil catch can would have prevented that. It really doesn't matter. It was something that came from the manufacturer. I'm convinced it was the sand casting process. So I don't think any oil catch can would have saved the day, if you will. And what I'm referring to is this here. You'll have people mention this. You'll see this when you're on certain sites out there. I use extremeterrain.com. Big shout out to those guys. But you'll see this and probably wonder, what is this for? And like I said, it's exactly what it states here. It catches the oil, catches that residue, drops it into this can here, and then when you change your oil, you go ahead and remove this, clean it out. There is a little nut underneath it that you are supposed to unscrew, and then it's supposed to technically just drip out. But the way this sits and where it's located, it's very difficult to do that. So in my case, I always take this thing out every time I change my oil. The bracket for it will sit right up against your PCM on the driver's side, inside that engine bay, on the driver's side against that PCM. So that's where this bracket goes. And then this little filter here will attach here. This hose here connects up towards your intake. And then this one goes and connects to a back part of your engine. Not hard to get to. And then these two will route to the in and out, and basically it's just catching drips of oil and catching any of that residue. So that's basically what that does. Again, it does catch stuff. So for me, I think it does kind of work. So if you're cool with that price point, it is a bit steep at $275 average out there, and you have some money, some free money that you could use, and you want to add something to try and prolong that engine, then I would say, yeah, go ahead and do it. For me, it should be a little bit lower on the price point, but something that's easy to install and anything to help prevent any issues with your Jeep, especially for your off-roading guys out there and girls. If you're constantly beating on that thing and it's that heat, then it's a good idea to have something like that. The other thing I want to touch on is the coolant filter. So The coolant filter is something that I installed about a year after installing the oil catch can. I installed the oil catch can right away. It's still in my Jeep today. But I put the coolant filter about a year and a half into owning the Jeep. I had read a few things, and being the way that I am and meticulous and wanted to keep this engine really tight, really good, and get as much horsepower as I could out of it, I installed it. The installation isn't so bad. It's you install it on the passenger side underneath up against the frame of your Jeep. I did have to take my tire out to get to one of the bolts to strap it to that frame. So it's not difficult, not hard, but it's a little bit of annoying where it is to try and get your hands in there and your tools. You do have to cut into an existing hose. You're basically, going in between a hose that goes from your radiator and then back out to your engine and, the water pump and everything that goes on there with the coolant. So you are going to have to cut. So you're going to cut into the hose, and then you're basically going to set this thing up in between that to capture all that coolant and then filter it out. It uses a regular Wix filter. You could use any filter. This bracket is what goes up against the frame. And then this is the adapter as well, where the hoses will go into. And then this taps in and becomes the middle of that hose that you're going to cut. I actually took mine out because I ended up having, about a year into it, I ended up having a leak with it, and I have it right here. And basically what it started to do, so it's got the hoses that I was just showing there. One goes in here, the other one goes out there. It was kind of that V shape that you were just seeing. And then when you change the filter, you could actually turn these valves to turn the fluid off from coming through it. So when you change that filter out here, you're not going to get all this coolant that's going to come dripping out. The problem that I had is I ended up having a leak somewhere around here. These were fine. I was cool here, no leak there. But the leak started happening around here, and I thought it was because it was getting, this kind of build up here, if you could see. And this is about a year and a half of having it installed. I took this out, I reseated it again, tightened it, and I still had a leak. I still had the smell from the coolant. So I just took it out completely. But this is it right here in a nutshell. And I never got around. And you could see it started to capture some stuff. There was some residue. I just never got around to sending that back and reaching out to Mishimoto. They do have good warranties on their products. So is that one worth having? In my opinion, it's not. It's not something that I would recommend to anyone. It's not going to keep your engine cooler. Is it going to clean it? Yeah, maybe it's cleaning it. I've seen like a video or two out there where guys have actually cut into the filter to see if it did anything. Didn't really do too much. So not something that I would recommend. And I was getting more of a headache than not a headache with it, wherever it was leaking from. So ultimately, I just took it out and I merged my hoses back together and kind of put it back to stock, if you will. So I just wanted to touch on that and let you guys know the experience with that, because I'm still concentrating on the engine side. I'll be creating some videos on the super chip that I installed and a few other things that I did at the engine to keep it cool. And then I'm going to work my way through the suspensions that I've installed and have gone through and things of that nature. So again, any questions on any of this, please reach out to mario@jeeptorque.com or leave a comment here on TikTok, or you could follow me on YouTube as well at JeepTorqueFL and just ask any questions. No question is a dumb question, or any experiences that you might have had that were different and it did work out well for you. So thank you again, and catch you on the next one.